Silence, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Feedback too.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Clanton?
Present.
Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Mr. Page?
Here.
Mr. Smiegel?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Dr. Alexander?
Here, the motion is to dispense with the reading of the minutes of our previous meeting.
Mr. Clanton? Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, please read the resolution certifying the closed meeting.
I have a resolution certifying a closed meeting of the Council of the City of Norfolk in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Adopt the resolution. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Hi, good evening and welcome to the Norfolk City Council meeting. Tonight, we will begin with public comments on consent and regular agenda items, followed by an invitation to bid, then public hearings. Following public hearings, we will take up regular agenda items, the consent agenda, which will be voted on in a block. Then new business. To address the council, you should have registered to speak with the clerk prior to 3 p.m. When your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name, your home address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Before we begin, Mr. Clerk, will you please read the rules governing tonight's meeting?
Certainly. City Council rules permit each speaker 3 minutes in total to speak on any and or all consent and agenda docket items at each monthly meeting. If in advance of tonight's meeting you've registered with the clerk to comment on a public hearing matter, you will have 3 minutes as an opportunity to also comment on that matter. As you approach the council, you'll notice a timer on the lectern. At the beginning of your 3 minutes, the green light will activate. 2.5 minutes into your remarks, you'll notice a yellow light, indicating you have 30 seconds to finish your comments. At the end of 3 minutes, you'll see a red light and hear a beep. We ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on docket matters, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a profane, disruptive, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience. Comments on an agenda item should be germane to that item. A speaker who fails to comply with the basic rules of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments. And as a reminder, no sign, placard, poster, or like material which may be carried by hand shall be permitted in the City Council chamber or adjoining areas.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The first person to speak is Monet Johnson on C3 and R14. Welcome, and she will be followed by Barrett Hicks.
So which am I speaking on?
Yes, this is on C3 and R14 that you signed up to speak.
Okay. So for C3, one, I hope you're all okay, and so are all of your families, and that this is just a protective measure. However, reading this made me feel the need to emphasize that everyone is deserving of accessible and effective city council meetings, not just the members of council. Making it easier for you all to participate remotely while the opportunity to speak on new business has been cut down to once a month, and the amount of time people can speak on their issues is getting more and more restrictive, it feels a bit out of touch. And I understand that you all have to make these meetings and that they can be time consuming, but they're even more so for the people who have to take off work, acquire childcare, transportation, and work past their own accessibility concerns to be here. I'm not saying that this step towards accessibility is a bad thing. I'm saying that the citizens are just as deserving of having ample time, opportunities, and means of having their voices heard and considered in these meetings as the people they elect to do so, and that nobody likes feeling silenced. For R14, while the city is willing to make changes to the charter and other aspects, they seem hesitant to make changes that would give them more decision-making power when it comes to housing affordability. And while preserve local control of land use decisions, including promoting affordable, inclusive, and mixed-income housing with supporting infrastructure for infill and redevelopment, sounds great, preserve and increase, not synonyms. And with the current state of affairs, citizens need local officials who have the power to protect them now more than ever. The state should be accountable to the way that they tie localities' hands behind their backs and seldom have to face frustrated constituents, and localities should not be able to cite the Dillon Rule when their constituents need help the most. Additionally, I'm very interested to see when the priority of restorative justice practices will make its way to the agenda, considering the advocacy for local governments to establish a local excise tax on the sale of vaping products and the eventual sale of cannabis products, and the current funding priorities of the police and sheriff's departments, increased camera surveillance, and the elephant of the room that is the lack of citizens review board, because you all's relationship with the citizens that will be and have been the most penalized, oppressed, and surveilled may very well need some restoration if they aren't considered moving forward. In summary, please take the opportunity to tell the Commonwealth that you need power to do the necessary things that are just and equitable for your citizens, and then please do what's just and equitable for your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Barrett Hicks. Barrett Hicks. Tiara Lassiter. Tiara Lassiter. Veronica Matoa.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So my name is Veronica Montoya. I live in 1008 Hillside Avenue in Norfolk, Virginia. So I'm just here tonight because I do respect last hearing's decision that it wasn't approved for my conditional permit for the car wash. One of the things was landscaping, which I wasn't really understanding what it was. So we have tried to keep the place as clean as possible, but I'm just asking to be a little considerate because I'm right off of Little Creek and Chesapeake. That's always busy. It's a really busy road. You may know already. So some things are just beyond our control. Although we try to keep it as clean as possible, there's a lot of people there just throwing trash. Before we got the place, actually, it was a place for people to live there, honestly. So we clean it up. We try to keep it up. And I believe that's all I really wanted to say, just to be a little considerate. I'm not trying to disrespect or nothing. I just want to, say that, and that's all. I wrote a whole page, but I'm just gonna say that, and I just want to thank you, and that's it.
All right, Mr. Smeagol, please don't move.
Yeah.
Veronica, Mrs. Smeagol has a, here.
Oh, sorry.
Do you own the whole gas station?
Actually, no, I do
Okay.
not. I
So
only
the problem isn't with the part where you want to do the car wash. The part is the problem of the owner of the whole property, and they're not cutting the grass. So in front of the sign on, and this is the same one on Military Highway, the same issue, this is why we asked for a delay, is the owner of the property is not maintaining the property at all, the landscaping, the cutting the grass. So if you go by there anytime in the summertime, the grass is a foot or taller. And so we're asking for the property owner, and it does impact you wanting to open up, to basically give us a promise that they're going to maintain the landscaping. So so
We
that's
personally
why it
can
was
do that.
delayed. What?
Okay.
So you're not technically responsible for that.
We are
It's
not,
the
but if
property owner.
it takes us doing it, we don't mind doing it at all.
So but we need the property, I don't know if the property owner has been engaged or engaged us after it was delayed, but maybe that's something that we can connect with and point that out for them, to show them that that's what we're asking for
All right.
with it.
And we did send someone to clean up leaves, and we fixed the gate. We try to, like I said, we try to keep it out, but we didn't cut much of the yard in the front because we weren't really aware. And I was gonna state that we only sublet one part of it, but if it impacts the whole thing, then we don't mind doing it at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lassiter, Tiara Lassiter, I see you have arrived. Called you early, but we're glad you made it.
R14, right?
Yes, R14.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Well,
So, good evening, council. Preserve local control of land use decisions, including promoting affordable, inclusive, and mixed-income housing with supporting infrastructure for infill and redevelopment. While the city is willing to make changes to the charter and other aspects, they seem hesitant to make a change that will give them more decision-making power when it comes to housing affordability. Preserve and increase are not synonyms, and with the current state of affairs, citizens need local officials who have the power to protect them now more than ever, especially regarding these renovictions. So the state should be accountable for the way that they tie localities' hands behind their backs and seldom have to face frustrated constituents. I know y'all know that these renovictions have been going on in several different apartment complexes around Norfolk, Virginia. Every day we are losing more and more of our affordability. So it would be great if the city could actually do more on our behalf to stop these renovictions, because y'all know the minimum wage has not increased as of yet. So we don't really have the physical money to be able to afford the better housing at this time. But we have developers or outside owners who have come and brought out certain apartment buildings, and they do these extensive renovations that leave us unable to be able to afford housing once renovations are done. And without the increase of minimum wage, the affordability is just not feasible. The everyday working citizen just literally cannot afford to live in Norfolk at this current time. So if you make changes to the charter, I hope that that would be on your list. Thank you.
thank you. Aiden Johnson will speak if, on questions. Aiden Johnson is here just to answer questions. Would you like to speak or just answer questions? Aiden Johnson. Alden. Would you like to speak or just? Yes. Please come.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Alden Johnson, and my home address is 2410 Corona Avenue, and I'm requesting a conditional use permit for 2410 Corona Avenue. I'd like to share a bit of information about me and my family. I attended Norfolk Catholic High School, played football, and ran track. I'm a former Air Force NCO and had approximately 25 people under my direction. After serving honorably in the Air Force, I worked at State Farm Insurance for 35 years. While there, I was promoted to Automation and Procedure Specialist with responsibility for natural disaster operations. I managed the setup of buildings which, depending on the size of the operation, were often the size of a Sam's Club. I coordinated the setup of communications and computer systems, supplies, and logistics to support operations of up to 170 or more people. My responsibilities also included project management, technical training, and support staff supervision. My family has had a presence in the Barad Park, Lindenwood, and Cottage Heights communities for nearly 100 years. My grandparents' home in 2410 were among the first homes built in the area. My mother, Odessa Johnson, taught at Lindenwood Elementary. My parents were active in the Civic League. They helped petition for sidewalks in the area. My grandparents and uncle, who served honorably in the Marines, are buried less than a half a mile away in Calvary Cemetery. We are part of the area's rich history. The late tennis great Arthur Ashe once played at Barad Park. My uncle, Dr. Robert Johnson, was his first tennis coach. When Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech, my parents allowed some of the travelers going to hear him speak to stay at our home. One reason for requesting the conditional use permit is to honor this legacy of giving refuge to travelers. I spend a significant amount of time in Norfolk. 2 of my doctors are in this area. I have lifelong friends in this area. My parents are buried here. Most of my family lives on the East Coast. When the streetlights were not working, I contacted Dominion Energy. When dogs roamed the neighborhood and roosters crowed at 4 a.m. 7 days a week, when old asphalt was removed causing clouds of dirt covering the windows of cars, which caused reduced visibility and possible respiratory problems for children and elderly residents, I initiated service requests. When I noticed a trash fire with flames and thick smoke, I called the fire department. I have significantly more concern for our neighbors than anyone who has spoken against this project and demonstrated I am an engaged stakeholder. There will be times when the hosting schedule is blocked for weeks because I will be staying there. I do not want constant occupancy, and we have a plan in place for vetting guests. Our target demographic will be traveling professionals, nurses, doctors, business people, professors, and folks welcoming their loved ones back from military deployments. At this time, if you have any questions or concerns, I'd like to take the opportunity to answer them.
Thank you for coming. Keenan Baskerville? Keenan will be followed by Jasmine.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing today? I am Keenan Baskerville. I live in Norfolk, in Tane, downtown East. I believe one of the last times that I was here, I mentioned how we could utilize our legislative requests to help protect citizens from predatory practices like renovictions in Norfolk. Y'all know that most recently, Pelham Place residents have become victims to this very same practice. The new buyer is utilizing loopholes in historic designation to justify terminating leases in the name of renovations and preservation just to jack up the prices and make it harder for these residents to come back. So my question for you all is, why isn't there any mention of legislation or a request to provide additional protections to renters? You made it very clear last time that your hands were currently tied, but now it seems that you all are choosing to keep them tied. Why is that? Pelham Place is not the only spot in Norfolk with dealing with renovictions. You have Talbot Park, and you have I didn't bring my extra notes with the additional place. But renovictions are something that is not new to Norfolk. So for those reasons, I request that you make an adjustment to create an addition to your 2026 legislative request to include additional protections for renters, specifically those who may be dealing with renovictions throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Jasmine Byers, followed by Carl Poole. Jasmine, followed by Carl Poole.
Good evening, Jasmine Byers. So when we talk about R14 and the future of Norfolk under the 2050 plan, what stands out to me is not just what the plan says, but what power the city actually has to carry it out. One of the core ideas in R14 is that Norfolk wants to maintain control over its land use decisions and guide development in a way that supports mixed income, accessible housing. That intention matters, but intentions don't always match the reality our residents live in. Right now, the city doesn't have the level of authority it truly needs to respond to the housing crisis in a meaningful way. And while some parts of our charter are open to modification, the section that could strengthen the city's role in housing affordability seems to be treated differently. That leaves a gap between what the city wants to promote and what can actually enforce. From my work in the community, I see residents every day who are struggling under policies shaped by decisions made outside of Norfolk. The people who suffer the most are the ones who have the least control, yet they are the first to feel the consequences when the city can't intervene. That's why it's important today to be honest. If Norfolk is going to plan for the next 25 years, then we need to talk about increasing the city's ability to act, not just maintaining the limited power it currently has, because maintaining the status quo won't protect families who are already at the edge. Growth without stronger tools won't fix what the communities are facing right now. So as we adopt this plan, my ask is simple. Let's make sure Norfolk is not just a city with good ideas on paper, but a city with the authority to turn those ideas into protection for the people who live here. Let's push the flexibility and the decision-making power needed to address affordability, stabilize neighbors, and respond to the realities of residents who wake up every day. If we want a future that truly works for everyone, then the city needs the ability to make decisions that match the urgency of what our communities are going through. Anything less leaves people behind while the plan moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Poole.
Mayor Alexander, Mr. Roberts, members of the council, good evening. My name is Carl Poole, and I live at 9424 Peachtree Street in Norfolk. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight about the city's 2026 legislative priorities, especially around education. Norfolk's priorities rightly include support for K-12 funding, school construction, and student mental health and equity programs. These are critically important investments for our students and for our community. But there is an opportunity to make these priorities more specific and impactful at the state level. Students who face the highest barriers, those from low-income families, English learners, and students with disabilities, still do not receive funding and support they need. These gaps translate directly to crowded classrooms, insufficient support staff, outdated materials, and limited access to mental health and learning resources. The city's legislative priorities could be strengthened by explicitly advocating for the state to, 1, increase per-student funding for students from high-poverty families. 2, expand resources and instructional supports for English learners. 3, restore and grow the funding for students with disabilities, ensuring equitable access to high-quality education. And 4, include accountability and reporting measures to ensure new funding reaches the students who need it most. Right now, Norfolk's priorities call for increased school funding and construction in general terms. These are essential, but without specifying support for high-need students, the city risks missing an opportunity to advocate for those most at risk of falling behind. By making these priorities explicit, Norfolk can strengthen its voice in Richmond and ensure that every child, regardless of income, language, and ability, has the resources to thrive. I urge the council to clarify Norfolk's 2026 educational priorities to include targeted support for students facing the highest barriers. Doing so will make a tangible difference in the lives of our students and in the future of our community. Once again, thank you all for your attention and for your leadership in supporting Norfolk's children.
Mr. Bull, IB1.
The next item is the receipt of bids pursuant to an invitation to bid and notice of public hearing scheduled this day pursuant to state law. Public notice having been inserted in the local press by the city clerk to accept bids for a long-term easement for a term of 40 years and temporary construction easements for a term of 6 months over City of Norfolk property in conjunction with the construction, installation, and maintenance of a communications duct bank, subject to certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. How many bids have been received?
We received one bid, sir.
Please read the bid and mark it for identification.
I have a bid from Verizon, and it's on behalf of Verizon LLC, Please accept this message as Verizon's formal bid in response to the invitation for bid referenced above, which is the invitation for bid of a temporary construction easement and a long-term easement over City of Norfolk property located at 140 Park Avenue in the City of Norfolk in conjunction with the construction, installation, and maintenance of a communications data bank. Verizon stands ready, willing, and able to perform, comply, and abide in accordance with the terms and conditions of all requirements as set out and associated with this invitation for bid for temporary construction easement and long-term easement over the City of Norfolk property. And I'll mark this as Verizon 12/5 dated and received.
Mr. Bull, are there any additional bids offered? If there are no additional bids offered, I declare the bidding closed. Is there any member of the public who wishes to be heard on this matter? If there's no member of the public who wishes to be heard on this matter, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a recommendation from city staff regarding the bid received from Verizon Virginia?
Thank you, Mayor. Staff recommends that the bid by Verizon Virginia be reviewed by city staff and a recommendation be made to city council at your December 16th, 2025 meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion to continue this matter to the next meeting of the Norfolk City Council on December 16th, 2025, to receive the recommendation of the city staff and to consider the bid that has been received?
I so move.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? If not, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Motion is to continue this item to December 16, 2025. Mr. Clanton? Mr. Clanton?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smigiel,
Aye.
Mr. Thomas? Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, PH1.
Public. Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
excuse me.
Mr. Fishko.
I don't know if you had people that wanted to speak about an immigration question on new business and whether we wanted to address that now or wait until the end of the meeting.
Mr. Bull, thank you. I see Police Chief Mark Talbot here as well. Mr. Chief, please, and Mr. Fishko and Mr. Roberts, if you want to make any comments on a false claim that was made against the Norfolk Police. And before we get into the agenda, Mr. Talbot, Chief Talbot, or Mr. Roberts, or Mr. Fishko.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll just make a brief statement. It was brought to city administration and the police department's attention sometime last week that a member of the armed forces, a naval sailor locally, had made a complaint to his command that he had suffered a traffic stop that he viewed as an illegal traffic stop in Norfolk by a Norfolk police officer. He further made a complaint that as part of that traffic stop, immigrations and customs enforcement personnel, or ICE agent, joined in that traffic stop, sought to get identification from the sailor. He relayed this complaint to his chain of command. Someone in that chain of command that identified himself as a chief, a non-commissioned officer in the Navy, then posted a lengthy video on social media describing the incident secondhand. That video was then reposted by other people. That when that was finally brought to my attention and the police chief's attention, we investigated it immediately, and in consultation with the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, NCIS, which is the law enforcement arm of the Navy, we have been told by naval law enforcement officials that the entire matter is fictitious. It was all made up. It was repeated, not knowing perhaps that it was made up, but we've been assured that none of what was stated or repeated or posted in video was true. We have fielded a number of calls, complaints. I believe people have signed up to speak about it tonight, but as the exhaustive investigation has pointed out, the entire matter was falsified. So Chief Talbot can answer any more specific questions than that.
Chief, welcome.
Thank you so much. The city manager covered all the pertinent details as far as the evolution of the story. As he said, it was complete fiction. not only was it complete fiction, we knew prior to the investigation that it was extremely unlikely. It would have been several policy violations. We don't function that way. It's inconsistent with our values. In fact, we did, despite the fact that we didn't believe any of it, we checked to see where every single police officer was during the time that the incident claimed to have happened, which is no small feat in a department the size of ours. There was not a police officer there. There was not a supervisor there. And we simply don't engage in the conduct that was alleged. I'm happy to answer any additional questions if you have them.
Thank you, and thank you and all the men and women of Norfolk Police Department for all you do to keep us safe. Thank you, sir. Mr. Pishko, would you like to add anything, sir?
That the mayor had mentioned to me that he wanted to do this earlier because if people had signed up with a misunderstanding that there was something to redress, we didn't want to waste anybody's time and have them sitting here through a meeting. Of course, you're welcome. We're happy to see you, but I believe that if you had complaint, then it's not based in any fact. So we would not be offended if you left, but you, of course, are welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, PH1.
Public hearing one scheduled this day pursuant to state law on the application of the City Planning Commission to repeal the general plan entitled Plan Norfolk 2030 and to adopt the plan entitled NFK 2050 as a comprehensive plan for the city of Norfolk. And by a 5-0 vote, Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thank you. We have Keenan Baskerville, followed by Tierra Lassiter. If you wish to speak, please come in this order. Keenan Baskerville, Tierra Lassiter, Monet Johnson, Jasmine Byers, and Carpool. If you wish to speak on PH1, please come in that order.
Hello again. Before I get started, I just wanted to say the third apartment complex that I know of that has suffered from renovations are the Lafayette Towers. But I'm here to request a more comprehensive plan for Norfolk 2050, especially in regards to education. In PH1 in Section F, there is an attached staff report from the October City Planning Commission meeting that states the public school impacts can be found in the Celebrating Our Community pillar. After reading and rereading the goals provided in the official draft plan, I can confidently say that PH1 nor the draft plan clearly states its intention for Norfolk Public Schools, or even its facilities for that matter. Norfolk 2050 aims to make Norfolk a more competitive choice among the places to live within our ever-changing economic region. It is no secret that Norfolk is struggling to maintain and grow its population, not only because of housing concerns and economic opportunity, but also due to the lack of outstanding educational output and planning provided by Norfolk. We were originally projected to see an increase in population during the 2030 plan, if you all remember. In fact, the 2030 plan had an entire chapter dedicated to supporting lifelong learning. When my mother moved my sister and I from Norfolk to Chesapeake 20 years ago, she told me that above all else, the dominating factor for which we left was education for her children. And now, my sister and I both live in Norfolk. She's a teacher for Virginia Beach. And she has come to the exact same conclusion. That is, because Norfolk Public Schools doesn't have the facilities or the plan in place to take care of her student, my nephew, that she will enroll him into a different school, into a different school district to ensure his future. I believe that many adults with school-aged children are leaving today for that very same reason. Using this rationale, I propose that in order to ensure Norfolk's prosperity and development well into 2050 and beyond, we should adopt a more specified action plan for Norfolk Public Schools. Areas of focus should be long-range planning for hiring and keeping credentialed teachers and giving them higher pay. Additionally, I suggest that you all consider beginning a community school initiative for Norfolk. Community schools provide comprehensive community development and resources through community-led, data-driven decision-making, much like Norfolk 2050. It makes schools a full-service center of learning for all ages, and I mean all ages. Community schools in Norfolk could help school buildings be used to their full potential. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Council. Norfolk 2050 plan. This plan sounds promising, but it does not show the how. Norfolk 2050 uses strong language about equity, but it lacks clear, measurable steps, timelines, or accountability to make those promises actually real. The plan centers development equity, not community equity. There's a lot of focus on land growth and opportunity zones, but not enough on keeping long-time residents safely and affordably housed in the neighborhoods they already built. Without concrete protections, the plan risks continuing Norfolk's long history of displacement. Black and low-income communities have been pushed out before, and terms like deconcentrate poverty continue to raise red flags, especially while rent evictions and rent hikes are happening right now within the city. Norfolk has been on the top evicting cities list since 2016 and still remains in the top 10 to this day. Affordability is mentioned but not explained. The plan doesn't say how affordability will be enforced, which programs will bridge rent gaps, which nonprofit partners will be chosen, or what metrics will track these progresses. Residents feel decisions are being made around them, not with them. We are not included. Community engagement must include the people most impacted: Black residents, elders, long-term tenants, not just industry stakeholders or developers. Equity only becomes real through enforceable housing protections. The city must repair this plan with policies that guarantee anti-displacement safeguards, require affordable housing units in new developments, protection from sudden rent spikes, and preservation of existing affordable homes and apartments. Norfolk cannot afford another plan that sounds good but leaves the most vulnerable behind and displaced and street homeless. Adopting the plan is a step forward, but only if council commits to measurable protections that ensure long-term residents can stay, grow, and thrive in Norfolk that they've helped build over time. I'm a long-term resident of Norfolk, and I don't like the idea that I feel like I'm being priced out of a city I've lived in my whole life. I don't like the fact that I've attained higher education and still cannot afford current rent prices. I don't like how everything has went up except for our pay. I don't like how this board is limited on what it can do and how it can protect everyday citizens like me. So I hope that y'all consider revising and relooking this plan, because 25 years is a long term to come. Even though you guys won't be here, we still will. Thank you.
Monet Johnson, followed by Jasmine, and then Carl.
Good evening, Council. While we know there was a committee that developed this plan, we know that you all are the ones to enforce it, and so there are a few things that I feel like are important to mention, seeing as this is the public hearing. Namely, that while the plan is great in theory, we will need execution that goes against all of Norfolk's lived history. Because without concrete protections, the plan risks continuing Norfolk's history of displacement. We've just heard some of the folks with the most to risk: Black folks, minority folks, low-income communities. They've been pushed out before. They've seen this, and we'll protect you, we've got your back doesn't necessarily get us as far as it did before, because it didn't get them very far at all. Additionally, we still have no concrete definition of what affordable housing means, nor any legal guardrails for new developments to follow. This is especially important because while affordable housing may mean keeping a roof over your head without sacrificing food in the fridge to me, to others it may mean enough to cover my mortgage or development costs and keep food in my fridge, regardless of what it means for you. And I think that we think about these plans and we talk about how far they are from right now. For context, I'm 29. 25 years ago, I was 4. In 25 years, I'll be, what, 54? I can't even imagine myself being 54, but I know some people here have experienced that, and y'all look great. But the important part is that these plans need to be executed in the ways that they are intended. I know some of the folks on this committee, I know what they intended for the citizens, what they intended for me, one of the people that's still going to be here, and I want to actually see those things. I don't want to have to leave and go to Portsmouth. Again, I can't even get into leases. It really doesn't make any sense for me to have to leave this locality that has raised my grandmother, that raised me during the summers, that I actually, surprisingly, come to care about, even though there's no soft serve ice cream. And so, in short, the plan looks good, but they always say, man plans, God laughs. But there's no room for joking with this one. So please take it very seriously and do what's right for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Good evening again. So, transitioning from the 2030 plan to the new 2050 plan is an important step toward shaping Norfolk's future. The emphasis on growth equity is encouraging, but when talking about growth equity, I ask that we consider the community. When we talk about development, we cannot separate land from the people who live on it. Growth should not mean displacement. Growth should not mean repairs and beautification only for luxury markets. Growth should not prioritize land value over the actual lives and stability of Norfolk residents. If NFK 2050 is going to guide us through mid-century, then the equity within this plan must be tangible, not aspirational. That means zoning that prevents displacement, affordable housing requirements for new development, rent stability, and protections, and anti-displacement safeguards for long-term residents. So I want to ask directly, will the city commit to preserving the affordable housing we currently have? Will new high-density zones require affordable units instead of only luxury options? Will this plan include real protections for the residents most vulnerable to eviction, including low-income families and elderly neighbors? NFK 2050 should not be a blueprint for development alone. It must be a blueprint for housing, stability, fairness, and belonging. And for that to happen, we need transparency around how this plan is implemented, accountability built into the process, and community oversight so residents can track progress and hold leadership to the standards of equity this plan promises. Growth for the sake of the land value is not equity. Growth that protects the people who built this city, that's what true equity looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Poole.
Once again, good evening. I'll keep it short. I want to speak about the Norfolk 2050 goal regarding school facilities, specifically the idea that we should align facilities with projected populations and provide community benefit rather than leaving empty buildings. I agree we shouldn't have empty schools, but meeting the needs of Norfolk students must mean more than just keeping buildings in use. Our schools are the heart of our community to truly serve our students and our families and attract future residents. We must reinvest in the quality of our learning environments. That means safe, accessible, well-maintained schools equipped with the resources that teachers and students need. It also means ensuring that schools remain hubs for community life, not just another empty building repurposed for other uses. As Norfolk plans for the future, the city must center investments on students, educators, and the broader community, not just efficiency and consolidation. If we do this, our schools will continue to be places where learning and community connection flourish for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bull, please call the roll.
I have an ordinance to repeal the general plan entitled Plan Norfolk 2030 and to adopt a plan entitled NFK 2050 as the comprehensive plan for the city of Norfolk. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
I want to thank staff for all of your work over the last couple of years to put this plan together. I also see a number of our friends from Planning Commission here. Thank you for being here, but most importantly, thank you for your work and your leadership on this. I vote aye.
Mr. Page?
Like my colleague, I'd like to thank the staff for their hard work. And with my expectations of what I believe needs to be done for equity to exist, you guys did it, you would probably lose your jobs. So I'm voting no, because I think we need a plan that includes some different things for us. So I'm voting no.
Thank you. Mr. Smiegel?
Yeah, thank you again to staff and all the public that volunteered and showed up to the meetings to give their feedback on this. There was probably much more public feedback opportunity than in the 2030 plan. So I appreciate that there was a lot of voice in that. This plan also looks a lot different than the 2030 plan. I had a lot of questions that Bobby and his staff answered very early on, particularly if you go to the 2030 plan, there was a chapter that had individual neighborhoods in it that had highlights of what was going to happen in those neighborhoods. That is not in this plan. It's a little bit different. It's looking at the bigger picture in there with some examples of what can be done in some neighborhoods. One thing to note on this plan, and Bobby, you can nod your head yes on this, is it can be adjusted, amended, changed as much as we want to. It's a working document. So this is the first part of that. And if there's, for example, the Housing Commission is probably going to come out with some recommendations that will need to be added into that plan, including possibly the definition of affordable in that. So we did make adjustments to the Plan 2030 over the years. And so there is an opportunity for continued adjustments on that. So I appreciate, once again, the work you're doing. I vote aye.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, PH2.
Public hearing 2 scheduled this date pursuant to state law on the application of McAllister Towing LLC to rezone properties located at 902 Southampton Avenue and a 1.22 acre portion of 151 Riverview Avenue from downtown Fort Norfolk District to conditional industrial waterfront district, and by a 5-0 vote, Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Beeman is here to answer any questions. Rob Beeman is here to answer any questions. He'll stand by, and to speak is Catherine Kildolf.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Catherine Kilduff, and my address is 537 Pembroke Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia. I moved to Ghent in 1985 when I was 6, and then I moved to Ghent again in 2014, almost a little over 10 years ago. And we moved from California, and we came back because of family. I had little kids and a job. And we loved Ghent because the downtown library had play areas for my kids. I could take Amtrak to DC to go to a main office of my organization. And then 4 years ago, we bought my parents' house, which was a big commitment in light of sea level rise. When I lived in California, I never thought I would live so close to the water. One of the amazing parts about being here again is Fort Norfolk. The Elizabeth River Trail can take you to Chelsea Bakehouse, a playground at Plum Point Park, Harbor's Edge, where my parents lived, a retirement community. The lofts at Front Street that have an amazing walkway where you can see the Naval Hospital at Portsmouth, and it's gorgeous. The problem with this project is that conditional rezoning is unnecessary. Downtown Fort Norfolk land, this parcel in particular, it allows an office building. That's what the applicant wants. Conditional rezoning could be appropriate where the applicant voluntarily agrees to conditions addressing community concerns or to fit with a neighborhood and a comprehensive plan. Here, the comprehensive plan is for it to be downtown Fort Norfolk, to have public access to the waterfront. The reason that this application fell short is because there was no public meeting, there was no discussion with a neighborhood league. So there was no community input into the proffers associated with this conditional rezoning. It's inconsistent with the Urban Land Institute's findings that have recommended more public access to the Elizabeth River in Fort Norfolk. Those reports were in 2002, 2014, that were done for the city. It's inconsistent with Norfolk 2050. At page 189, it says, review coastline riverline projects for the appropriateness of adding shoreline waterfront access in the form of promenades, piers, parks, or other public spaces. The reason I know that this wasn't done is because there were inaccuracies at the Planning Commission. At first, the staff said it's not waterfront. They said it's a small parcel. They said there's no city property, even though access to this parcel is dependent on a right-of-way over city property. Back to the changes since 1985, there used to be abandoned warehouses up to, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Beaman, would you like to answer any questions before we proceed with the vote? You good? Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here. Mr. Bull?
I have an ordinance to rezone properties located at 902 Southampton Avenue and a 1.22 acre portion of 151 Riverview Avenue from downtown Fort Norfolk District to conditional industrial waterfront district. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective dates. Mr. Clanton?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas? Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, page 3.
Public hearing 3 scheduled this day pursuant to state law on the application of East Beach Square LLC to rezone properties located at 9523 and 9527 22nd Bay Street from residential coastal district to conditional regional commercial district, and by a 5-0 vote, Planning Commission recommends approval. I have an ordinance to rezone properties located at 9523 and 9527 22nd Bay Street from residential coastal district to conditional regional commercial district. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton? Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Page 4.
Public hearing 4 scheduled to stay pursuant to state law on the application of Brian Grace to rezone property located at 1917 East Ocean View Avenue from residential coastal district to conditional community commercial district. And the motion will be to withdraw this matter, sir.
Without objection.
Mr. Clanton? Mrs. Doyle?
The aye is to withdraw, correct?
Yes.
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Is that an aye, ma'am?
Aye.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, C1 through C5 will be considered in one block unless otherwise noted.
Okay, sir. Approve the consent agenda and dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinances twice and adopt with the effective dates. Mr. Clanton? Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, R1.
R1 is an ordinance granting the United States of America by and through the Department of the Navy long-term access with a 20-year term across City of Norfolk property located on Hampton Boulevard, and all conjunction with installation of borings and monitoring wells to evaluate the soil and groundwater quality, subject to certain terms and conditions. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton? Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R2.
R2 is an ordinance granting a conditional use permit to authorize the operation of a car wash named Ocean Hand Car Wash on property located at 7900 Chesapeake Boulevard. And by a vote of 5-0, Planning Commission recommends approval.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Smigiel?
Mr. Hahn, did we have the opportunity to reach out to the property owner about R2 and R3?
Councilman Smigiel, the staff contacted the applicants to notify them of the concerns with the landscaping. It is to note of the two applications, there were significant issues on the site prior to them getting to this point, where we've had to have them do repairs to dumpster enclosures, other landscaping, and remove unapproved uses on the sites. So staff has done a significant portion of reviewing the site to make sure it's up to standards, and we'll continue to keep an eye on the two sites.
Mr. Bull?
So, I want to make sure, because the applicants are here, but they're not the owners of the property. And normally, sometimes the owners of the property will come along with this to be supportive of the applicants, and we're not having the opportunity to share our concerns directly with them. So is there a way that, I think Councilman Page, myself, Councilman McGee, we would be more than happy if we can get the owner's contact information to go sit down with them and share our concerns with them so that we can allow the applicants to move forward. It isn't their responsibility, but they're going to be on that property, and I don't want them to be held accountable for the actions later with it if their landlords are not being good stewards in our city. So I feel for them, and I appreciate that the applicant's here, but I think we have some things we need to address with both of those properties. Yeah, I would be more than, are you willing to continue this till next
Yes,
week?
sir. I'll continue.
R2 and R3, and in that time period, you and I can go meet with them
Yes, sir.
and figure it out. It's the same owner, correct, of both properties, of the shells?
No, sir, I believe they're two different property owners.
Two different properties?
sir.
Oh, okay, well, we'll have double the time then. Yeah, okay.
Mr. John, do you know of anything that's time-sensitive on these two applications?
Not that I'm aware from the applicants, but they have not shared that information with me.
Okay. Sir, Mr. Bull, R2, the motion is to continue to our next meeting.
Okay, the motion is to continue R2 to December 16th, 2025. Mr. Clanton? Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smigiel,
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, R3, and there will be a motion to continue R3 until December the 16th, 2025.
So the motion is to continue R3 to December 16th, 2025. Mr. Clanton? Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smigiel,
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. Mr. Clerk, R4,
R4 is an ordinance granting a conditional use permit to authorize the operation of a restaurant with extended hours named America's Best Wings Hero and Pizza on property located at 201 East Berkeley Avenue, and by a vote of 5-0, Planning Commission recommends approval.
Mr. Bull, do you know the hours, or Mr. Pishko, the new hours that are being proposed?
6 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week.
Thank you. Mr. Bull,
Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton? Thank you.
Restate what the amendment was.
There's none.
That was just the hours that were posted, Mr. Pishka.
It's a CUP to authorize the Best Wings and Gyro Pizza. It does not include the sale of alcohol.
Okay, and the hours of operation going to be, I didn't hear that part, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6 a.m. to midnight.
Okay. Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
No.
Mr. McGee?
No.
Mr. Page?
No.
Mr. Smigiel,
No.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Dr. Alexander?
no.
Motion fails.
Mr. Clerk, R5.
R5 is an ordinance granting a conditional use permit to authorize a short-term rental unit, a vacation rental, on property located at 2410 Corona Avenue. And by 3-2 vote, the Planning Commission recommends denial.
Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Johnson, let me begin by saying thank you for your service to the entire world. I appreciate your service. I am aware of your family's history, the home, your family's contribution to the community of the Lindenwood, Barad Park, Cottage Heights communities for over 100 years. I also would like to thank you for your family's rich history and investment in the Barad Park community. However, it is my job as council person for the Lindenwood, Barad Park, and Cottage Heights communities to protect, prepare, and grow each one of those communities. And my concern with your request, sir, is that your family being away and having the proper management for your family's rich history home deeply concerns me. I am again aware of your investment and how much you do love Barad Park. And the city, my colleagues here on council, Team Norfolk, we're doing much work in the Lindenwood, Barad Park, Cottage Heights to prepare for its growth. And once we get to that time, then maybe reconsideration can be considered for a short-term rental in the Barad Park community. So thank you, sir, for your consideration of requesting the CUP.
Mr. Bull?
Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton.
I know I'm just going to say aye here, but I would just like to let my colleagues know that I did meet with the applicant, and the applicant did provide to me his form of management that would be managing that location, if my understanding. Also, that the Civic League did write a letter in support of this. So with those things there, I will be voting aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Yay.
Mrs. Johnson?
No.
Mr. McGee?
No.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, moving forward, we've had this conversation before on short-term rentals, that if we have a part of the city or neighborhood specifically that short-term rentals are not desired, is it being communicated to the applicants before they go through the process that it's most likely not going to make it through to council? That is, was this applicant told that, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but was this applicant told that in Ward 3, there's, in most neighborhoods in Ward 3, that short-term rentals have been denied? You can yell from back there, Bobby.
No, sir, I was not.
Bobby.
Yep, Bobby, you now have been requested to come up.
We do recommend to the applicants to assure that they speak with the council members in their ward so that they have the information. Sometimes we will tell them that there are troubles for obtaining short-term rentals in certain areas. There aren't many that were applied for on this section of Barad Park. One similar to it was in the Lindenwood area, so it was across the street. So we always recommended the applicants to speak to the council members.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because when we did our short-term rental study group, one of the things that came out from short-term rental operators is the very lengthy process they have to go through for CUP, and then only to come before us and it gets denied. I know it was denied at planning, which should have been a sign that it probably wouldn't make it through. But we've got to do something different. We're taking people's money, we're putting them through a lengthy process and then just deny. It's a risk on anybody who applies, but these are not corporate people. They don't have the money that's extra to expend when they go through this. They're technically small businesses, and we need to understand that as a council. and making sure, moving forward that that's there. My colleague on council has made it adamant that these are not welcome in Ward 3, so I'm going to uphold that and vote no. But I really am bothered by this continuation of applicants coming before us, and we're just denying that. They have much more success if you come to Ocean View. The civic leagues there tend to be a little bit more in favor, but there are other parts of the city where the neighborhoods are very sensitive, and I understand why these are not desired. But I just don't want people to go through this anymore. There needs to be some way to say in the very beginning, stop. Don't move forward and waste your time. So, thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Dr. Alexander?
R6.
R6 is an ordinance amending the FY 2026 Annual Appropriations Ordinance, number 49966, so as to accept and appropriate donated funds from Friends of the Norfolk Public Library in the amount of not to exceed $23,000 from the Norfolk Public Library to support various projects, if and when received, and amending the FY 2026 budget to add the same. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle.
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. McGee.
Aye.
Mr. Page.
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel.
Aye.
Mr. Thomas.
Aye.
Dr. Alexander.
Aye. R7.
R7 is a resolution approving an update to the airport master plan for the Norfolk International Airport. Adopt the resolution. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas? Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R8.
R8 is an ordinance amending and reordaining Section 1 of the FY 2026 Annual Appropriations Ordinance Number 49966 in its entirety, so as to reappropriate and carry forward unspent funds from FY 2025 not to exceed the amount of $135,790 and authorizing the expenditure of said amount to fund necessary operational expenses in FY 2026 for the Norfolk Department of Public Health, so as to offset the FY 2025 liabilities and to meet the operational needs in FY 2026 and amending the FY 2026 annual budget consistent with these changes. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R9.
R9 is an ordinance to amend and reordain Section 24-258 of the Norfolk City Code 1979 regarding the requirement for new food established businesses. Authority of the Commissioner so as to remove the meal tax bond requirement. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton.
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
To vote aye. I think this is a good example of how we're trying to make it easier to do business with Norfolk, and I want to thank my colleague Jeremy McGee, who was very instrumental in making this happen. But we all think it's very good for businesses doing work here in the city, so I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas? Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R10.
R10 is an ordinance to amend and reordain Chapter 24, Article 4 of the Norfolk City Code 1979 regarding real estate taxes, so as to add one new subsection, 24-203.2, regarding tax abatement program for renovation of mixed-use properties. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas? Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R11.
R11 is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a certain portion of the Commonwealth of Virginia's Norfolk State University property located at 804 Park Avenue to be dedicated as a public right-of-way for the sum of $3,200, authorizing the purchase of the temporary construction easement for the sum of $200 and authorizing the expenditure of a sum of up to $3,400 from funds heretofore appropriated for the purchase of the property and the easement. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas? Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R12.
R12 is an ordinance granting 2 additional full days of holiday leave to all city employees on December 26, 2025, and January 2nd, 2026. Dispense with the charter requirement for reading the ordinance twice and adopt with the effective date. Mr. Clanton. Thank you. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
To the employees of the city of Norfolk, on behalf of the city council, and I'm speaking for my colleagues this evening, this is the first opportunity I get. We would just like to say thank you for your dedication and hard work. We can't pay you the money that you may be so deserving, but this time off gives you an opportunity to spend more time with your family and your friends. So please enjoy, and again, thank you, especially on behalf of these two right here. The mayor, he always works with council, so thank you, sir, and Mr. Manager, and my colleagues. I vote aye.
Thank you. Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
I vote aye also. I'd like to thank Ms. Johnson for always looking out for the employees and move the council to consider putting some things in place to where this is automatically taken care of. God forbid Ms. Johnson decides not to be on council one day. Who's going to take care of our city employees?
Me.
Okay, so Tommy Smiegel said
I'm not
he
going
would-
anywhere.
that we would consider doing something to where Ms. Johnson and the rest of us don't have to go through this process, where it's already implemented on holidays that fall this way.
Is that an aye, sir?
That's an aye.
Did you hear what the mayor said?
What do you say?
Tell him, Mayor.
Ms. Johnson's not going anywhere.
She's not going nowhere, she gonna stay for a while?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Smiegel?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the amendment that the city manager has to work those 2 days is in there. So that's
You're
still-
going to tell you I work on all this.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, aye.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R13.
R13 is a resolution appointing and reappointing 29 members to 5 commissions, 4 boards, and 2 committees for certain terms. Adopt the resolution. Mr. Clanton. Mrs. Doyle?
Aye.
Mrs. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Page?
Aye.
Mr. Smiegel?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Dr. Alexander?
Aye. R14.
R14 is a resolution supporting the 2026 legislative priorities for the city of Norfolk. Adopt the resolution. Mr. Clanton. Mrs. Doyle.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. McGee.
Aye.
Mr. Page.
I say aye with consideration for some additions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smiegel.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure too, thank you for all the speakers that came down that brought up some very valid points. I do want to make sure that everybody knows at the very bottom of the legislative package, it does say that as when we vote on this, that we endorse the legislative packages of multiple organizations, including the Virginia Municipal League and Virginia First Cities, as well as Norfolk Public Schools. That includes many of the items that were brought up in the speeches. So I've learned over the years with our legislative package that we can't include everything. There are some things we probably need to adjust, or some language in here that I think has been repetitive that we might want to update. But we do support that. And so when our lobbyists are in Richmond, they look at all of those legislative packages, and we make sure that they're representing us with our local delegation and others, and making sure that those are there. There's a lot of talk this year about housing, including rent eviction, and I believe that there's some legislation that's going to be proposed as part of that that is addressed in the organizations that we are part of as well. So I know VML has addressed it, Virginia First City as well. So we'll be continuing to watch that. And once again, I believe we can make amendments to this, or if there's something that comes up, we can ask Brian Pennington to make sure he gives us updates regularly, and the city manager on what's going on, so that we can stay in touch with that. So I vote aye.
And Mr. Smeagol, Mr. Bull, also, in case you don't know, Brian Pendleton, if you would stand, please, sir, and I and Team Norfolk in October, we were at the state capitol speaking before the Virginia Housing Committee on eviction mitigation on behalf of our citizens here in Norfolk. That is also included in our legislative packet. So we are in Richmond speaking on your behalf, addressing your concerns.
And we
Thank
have
you.
our legislative dinner that we'll have with all of our local delegates, and we draw delegates from other cities in which we will address these items as well.
Sir Thomas.
Aye.
Dr. Alexander.
Aye.
Thank you.
You have another?
That's all I have, sir.
All right, we're going to move very expeditiously with new business. Susan Matusik is followed by Calvin Williams. In that order, we're going to... Okay. All right.
And thank the assistant manager for on. He's gonna have the people call me from the building, so.
Okay, all right.
I won't get my house built, so I can get on.
All right, okay.
Could I give this to you to give to Alan Bull? Thank you, sir. Okay, ready?
We're ready.
Merry Christmas, like your poinsettias, Mayor, City Council. Please note the 13 pages I just gave you. I'm not going to read them to you. You're all beautiful people. I'm sure you can read it. It's a nice timeline here. I'm appalled at the lack of ethics in some of the people in the police operations. Captain Dixon does not know what he's doing, and Sergeant Kevin Barnes. They're sexist, racist pigs. In the 2nd precinct, Captain Barnes...
So Ms. Matusik, let's not do that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Captain Barnes, in the 2nd precinct, I'm sorry, a permitted warrant was issued by Honorable Magistrate Hannah Liddington, December 3rd, 2025. You'll see that in your packet. And I talked to Sergeant Armstrong. He said there's no such thing. Yes, there is. And I talked to her. So Clerk Henson said she was served it, but she doesn't know which clerk had it. So we've got to change the way we do things in the state courts, which is not your issue, but your cops are the issue. Carl Haid, the Executive Secretary of the Supreme Court of Virginia, a writ of mandamus is to file to the Supreme Court when egregious due process rights are violated by criminals, cops, clerks, and the Commonwealth. Do not alter records, do not hide discovery, because and do not maliciously prosecute victims. My house will be rebuilt. I was going to live down in Grandy, but, you know, I have so much to do here. I might even do a cast thing with the advocate for people to help the guardian ad litems. People need a voice. Old people, disabled people, all of us need a voice. Mr. Rogers, I appreciate the deputy city manager telling me he's going to have the people call me, because when I call, they don't call back. Okay, I do have a master's degree. I live at 8214 Andrew Lane. I'm sorry it's taking me so long. I almost died twice. Merry Christmas to all of you, and Merry Ritmas. You'll understand that, right, Mr. Pishko? You know what Ritmas is. A writ of mandamus is what people can file when they're screwed over in the courts. You go up and you write to the Supreme Court, look it up. And just I'm letting you know, people have rights. Nobody is better than anybody else. Black Lives Matter, disabled rights, seniors, people like me. I matter. You all matter. So thank you. I know you've missed my big fat mouth. I miss you, though. You're really a good mayor. I do. And I like the way you speak. Thank you, John. Yes, Jay Jones. Yes, Abigail, we've got a woman in charge. Thank you.
Calvin Williams, followed by Sheena Thompson, in that order.
Good evening, Mayor, good City Council members. My name is Calvin Williams. I'm the Executive Director of My 2K Foundation. And as many of y'all know, we work inside the St. Paul's area for many years, focusing on disparities of violence prevention from a health lens. Our duty is to work, excuse me. Let me go ahead and see this. Well, while we working, we discovered something that's very alarming, that there's 3 convenience stores inside of St. Paul quadrants that for some reason been, for the last decade, been operating as a public nuisance without any accountability. These locations are Tiny Giant, Shop and Go, and Watergate. They have been the site of multiple violence incidents, including 7 homicides, numerous shootings and stabbings, and ongoing disorders. For 10 years, the community has been fixed under these conditions. And this was get serious at. And respectfully, no disrespect to the councilman, I actually applaud y'all. We watch what y'all done with the downtown nightclub life in the nightclub district downtown, where we applaud that the speed and the clarity and the commitment to protect the residents and the visitors were evident. So it's difficult for the residents of St. Paul's to understand why the same urgency has been applied to the stores at St. Paul's, where families, seniors, and children must walk past this environment every single day. These stores hide behind the phrase food desert, but they are not serving the community or the people. They are harming them. They profit from the lack of access to food and contribute to the fear and the violence that keep real business from even coming in. Truly, we believe that a lot of these businesses that will come help the community and actually give nutrient to the community, it's not coming in for the fear of the violence inside the community. And we actually believe that if we get rid of these hot spots in the community, that they get addressed. In some ways, if not just get rid of them first, that somehow y'all can get together and form some policies. We've seen what y'all can do with the nightclub. It's a safer Norfolk because the nightclubs are gone away. And we'll believe it'll be a safer St. Paul's if we get rid of these hot spots. We have other businesses inside the area that actually work out their business and nothing ever happened. But I don't know what's the definition of public nuisance inside Norfolk, the city council public nuisance is. But we know of at least 7 homicides in the last 10 years been in these 3 stores. And there's other stores that work inside this community and operate in this community and have no violence at all.
Thank you, sir. Your time is expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sheena Thompson. Followed by Sarah Harrington.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Sheena Thompson. I am the Executive Director Assistant of My2K Foundation, an organization that works daily in the St. Paul's community, and we address the root cause of violence and health disparities that fuel it. Through our research and our presence on the ground, we've uncovered something deeply alarming, something that has been overlooked for far too long. For the past decade, 3 convenience stores in the St. Paul quadrants have operated under public safety. Tiny Giant, Shop and Go, and Watergate. I'm going to detour and go to personal experience of me and my child in the Shop and Go number 4, and I had to kick my way out their back door because guns were drawn like the Wild Wild West. Across these 3 locations, they've had 15 incidents, violent incidents, and 8 homicides. They're not isolated incidents. These are patterns that have been triggered for immediate action if they happen anywhere else in the city, and that is very concerning. We do applaud the City Council's swift action with the nightclub safety in the area. However, the St. Paul's area community deserves the same swiftness, the same security. The walk up at the Teeny Giant, since that has been placed. Someone has been killed at that. The Watergate has a fish bowl design where community members believe that makes the people shopping very visible and contributes to the most recent shootings. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, Tobacco Plus has operated for years without violence, without alcohol, without EBT, and without chaos. That proves something important, that violence is not inevitable, but it is a result of managed choices and absence of accountability. So today, I am asking the city to take a serious look at these 3 stores, considering where they meet the threshold of public nuisance, because the families of the St. Paul's community deserve protection, safe urgency, and the same enforcement standards that families all over the city deserve. They should not have to choose between eating and staying alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Harrington, followed by William Spadell.
Hello, I'm Sarah Harrington. My address is 816 West 42nd Street in Highland Park. I am a founder of a micro school in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm also an owner of a bike shop in Norfolk, and I'm speaking about the Granby Street bike lanes. Personally, super grateful for those lanes. If you've ever ridden a bicycle down Granby Street, right now, while the lanes are being built and before then, it's terrifying. I mean, I just drove a school bus down Granby Street today, going the speed limit, 30 miles per hour, and just car after car after car after car passing me. Even just driving in a car is terrifying. So to be a cyclist riding on the side of the road and having all of these cars whiz by you, not to mention somebody goes by you and then there's another car back behind them and slamming on it's terrifying. I mean, in Highland Park, we've had a couple fatalities this year, people getting hit by cars. It's just, cars are dangerous. Cars are dangerous, and we need these infrastructures in place to keep commuters safe, have places for people to walk safely, bike safely, to get around safely, because when it comes down to it, it's really not going to impact driving very much, because 26th Street, 27th Street, those bike lanes have been put into place, and I don't ever see any traffic jams on 26th and 27th Street. So having those bike lanes there, thank you so much for approving that. I think I have a lot of cyclists here tonight. If you guys don't mind standing up and, like, you know, there's a lot of people here that ride bikes. And so we're just really grateful that those lanes have been put into place, and thanks for passing that and approving it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Will Spidell. I live at 111 Blake Road. I'm just 4 houses off of Granby Street. The 1.5 mile corridor between the bridge and Ward's Corner is lined with private residences, 5 assisted living and senior housing facilities, 5 churches, 3 schools, a synagogue, medical clinics, a funeral home, preschool programs, and a former hospital that's soon to be an after-school summer camp program for local youth. For those of us who live in this corridor, the lane reduction project was never about bike lanes. Although the grant that is funding it this has always been about slowing traffic and making our community safer. When this was first proposed 10 years ago, no one would have imagined it would become the longest public input traffic project in the city's history. Since that time, police have responded to roughly 300 traffic accidents, including 11 fatalities in this corridor. Each new serious crash brought more frustration to the phrase, we need to take this time to do this and make sure that we get it right. So even though this project's still under construction, I wanted to highlight already some visible improvements that we've seen. Drivers turning onto Granby from side streets now have better visibility and safer sight lines. Emergency vehicles can pull into the bike lane to stop, keeping our first responders safe and out of active traffic. Slower traffic on Granby Street means slower speeds when cars are turning into my neighborhood side street. The bike lanes get cyclists off of the sidewalks, reducing conflicts with residents who are pulling out of driveways and side streets. The bike lane is an added safety buffer from traffic, making the sidewalks safer for pedestrians. But most importantly, 3 days after the construction started, a northbound car lost control at Beverly, an area where there have been 3 previous fatalities. The bike lane gave the driver enough space to swerve and miss a power pole by less than a foot. The car crashed into a neighboring fence and deflected back into the empty bike lane, instead of landing up in someone's yard where one had been previously. In conclusion, while many might want to focus on bike lanes, I want to acknowledge the hundreds of people and the thousands of comments that came from the public for those who fought for these safety speed reductions in the corridor. Whether you were an early advocate or someone who came around over time, this has been a long, difficult effort, and I'm deeply grateful. To the people of Bike Norfolk, to the community leaders, to other supporters who may be here tonight, and especially to city staff who sit in the back, I want to say you all did get this right. Thank you for taking the time and for listening. You may have already saved a life, and construction isn't even finished. Thank you.
Thank you. Barrett Hicks. Is Barrett here? What about Clayton Ty? Clayton? Yes. Clayton's followed by Denise Jones Johnson.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Clayton Ty. I'm a resident of Newport News. And I'm here tonight to speak about the incident that Chief Talbot had brought up. And while I appreciate his assurances that the event didn't happen, I still have a few concerns. At first, Wavy TV 10 reported that the police department immediately denied that the event took place and then retracted that and said that they were investigating. And then following that, Wavy also said that the Navy, in a first, wouldn't release the information of the chief to their reporters, which was strange to them. So I also thought it was strange. So I went to Norfolk's website on their open data incidents log, and I found a stop on November 17th outside of the Wawa on the 8400 block of Hampton Boulevard on the day alleged that it took place and the location that it was alleged to take place, with no time included. So I filed a FOIA request with the city. I haven't heard back yet, but I asked for the incident and the dashboard video of that incident and tried to put this to rest. I do know that there are over 25 flock surveillance cameras surrounding the Norfolk Naval Base, and Norfolk has been found through a WHRO investigation. Norfolk PD has been found to share flock license plate reader data with ICE. One query from between April 9th and April 16th by a Norfolk police officer queried 80,472 nationwide devices, and the justification field says ICE enforcement and removal operations, and that was the justification field. So the state of Virginia state law changed in the beginning of June and has since cut off nationwide sharing. However, that chief and members of this community have every right to feel like they're being surveilled against their will, and that data is just being shared with everybody and anybody. So that's why I'm bringing this up tonight. I hope that you can look into that incident on Norfolk's own website to try to get to the bottom of it before I can. Thank you for your time.
Denise Jones Johnson. Denise will be followed by D. Xavier Wilkins. Now, you first, Ms. Johnson, then Mr. Wilkins is going to come after you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Denise Johnson Jones, 1816 Bracey Street. Excuse me. I'm here to ask the city if maybe, just maybe, once in a while, someone on this council, other than Councilman John Page, will make themselves visible for the people of your city, especially at Bruce Jones Love Ministry. Councilman Page has attended Teens with a Purpose, Just Say No to Drugs, North Street Choir events, A-Tuck events, and all these others. And I know he's been there because I've been there. He has recently gotten into HRT's book because he helped five passengers by riding the bus with Miss Johnson, Councilman Johnson. Riding the bus, he helped these passengers decide that they wanted to be operators. And they are now 5 full-time operators with HRT. So I'm asking that, you make yourself visible. Clayton, Councilman Clayton, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Clayton has been out to the monument. But at Bruce Jones Love Monument, he's been out there 15 years. I know he's been out there 15 years because I've only missed 27 Sundays for him being out there every Sunday. He gives out tents, clothes, food, and everything. Last Sunday, we fed 334 homeless and hungry people. We gave them tents, coats, long johns, coats, all these things are given out. Councilman Page is always there. There's nobody else from the council that shows up to help out. We are all volunteers. Most of the donations, 83% of the donations come from organizations in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, not from Norfolk. We are right there at church in Bramerton every Sunday. We've been there 15 years. 15 years. And like I said, I know he's been there because I've only missed 27 Sundays myself in 15 years. So I'm just asking that, you'll come together and you just come out and just let him know that you care. We are all volunteers. Last Sunday on the 30th, we rented tents, tables, chairs, and tablecloths so the homeless could sit down and eat like it was a Thanksgiving dinner. We did that on our own. Nobody donated it. We did it all. Bruce Jones Love Ministry. I'm just asking if you just show your face. John Page, Councilman Page, is out there all the time. He comes out there and serves all the time. And like I said, he rides the bus, comes out there and serves. And because he's visible, he's able to help. And I'm just asking, just show your face. That's all I ask. Please.
Xavier Wilkins.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and the city of Norfolk. My name is Dustin Xavier Wilkins, 435 Virginia Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia, and professionally known as Chosen Wilkins. I am currently a resident here in Norfolk, but I also have residence in Arlington, Virginia. And I am here to make certain that no one is above the law, not wealthy, not law enforcement authorities, or any celebrity or public figure. No one is above the law. The law was made for the people, by the people, which this is a famous quote made by former United States President Abraham Lincoln during his Gettysburg Address. This meant that the laws ideally should serve the people and originate from the people, us, and with our consent. Laws are made for human benefit and should be just and fair to serve the common good, embodying the principle of consent of the governed. Despite of this, the Norfolk Police Department being filled with various men and women who diligently put their lives on the line daily to enforce the law and to protect and enforce the law. Sorry, I repeated that. And others who are assigned different tasks to fulfill the operations of the police department. There are also many who do the opposite and prefer to be corrupt in MPD. This has been evident for years, decades, even before I was born. The ones who are to protect everyone regardless of race, gender, financial status, sexual orientation, mental health, characteristics, religion, age, with or without criminal record, prominence, or fame, are at times the ones that many of us need to be protected from. If a human is or has been a victim of a crime or someone who needs to be protected by the law, then our police department should set aside personal opinions to do what is right. However, I and many others have experienced injustice, discrimination, reputational damages, or subject to a denial of justice when we are in the right and become a victim of a crime, regardless of how popular or famous someone is. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And Norfolk Police Department needs to treat all crimes, whether or not the crime is an economic crime, a robbery, a murderer, internal corruption, or a sexual predator. Norfolk Police Department Detectives Division displayed what many would probably view as selective discrimination, bias-based policing, abuse of discretion, and/or perverting the course of justice. To make matters worse, reporting this to the Norfolk Police Department's Office of Professional Standards failed to investigate and follow up with investigation, leaving me, personally, to feel unprotected and less than a human. I finally received proof after more than a decade that a certain largely famous entertainer in our area from Hampton Roads had made a false complaint to the magistrate's office against me. That is my time.
Your time, thank you. Ophelia Watley. Watley is followed by Steve Baglery.
Greetings, all.
Hi.
I am Ophelia Watley. I reside at 566 Stewart Circle, Norfolk. I invite all those who are here in support of global, verifiable nuclear disarmament to stand. Thank you. Coming around is the city's appeal for the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN. It is a resolution that has been passed by hundreds of cities, local and regional bodies around the world, asking their governments to join the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW. It is the first treaty designed to facilitate global, verifiable nuclear disarmament. In 2017, ICAN won the Nobel Peace Prize for its part in bringing the treaty to fruition. And today, over half of UN member states have either signed or verified the treaty to its designated participants. Signers of ICAN cities' appeal include the city councils of Washington, D.C. and Paris, both capitals of nuclear-armed states, as well as those of Berlin, Rome, Amsterdam, and capitals of nations with nuclear weapons on their soil. Other U.S. signers include Salt Lake City, Des Moines, Anchorage, Denver, Los Angeles, and New York City. You may think that nuclear war is outside of the scope of the city's concern, but be assured that Norfolk is high on Russia's nuclear targeting list and soon to be high on China's as well, as it grows its intercontinental ballistic missiles program at breakneck speed. We are surrounded by high-value targets. I'm hoping that we're able to make sure that Norfolk does everything it can to assure safety, not only for our residents, but to be part of what is happening globally. Keep us safe. Thank you.
You follow him. You follow Sahara, you follow him. You follow Steve. Steve, then Sahara.
I'm Steve Baggerly. I live in Lambert's Point, 27th and Bowden's Ferry. And as sure as human beings are fallible, nuclear deterrence, the theory on which rides the future of humankind, sooner or later will fail. When it does, say on a second or fourth Tuesday evening of the month at about this time, and a single Russian missile plants warheads within moments at the ballistic missile submarine infrastructure in Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Newport News, the good people of Hampton Roads who are at ground zero will be instantly vaporized, along with everything else, by fireballs hotter than the sun. Shock waves moving faster than the speed of sound will flatten everything another mile out, mowing people down or hurling them into the air, bursting lungs and eardrums, sucking up bodies and spitting them out. Buildings will disintegrate, bridges collapse, cranes topple over, and 18-wheelers become airborne. The heat will ignite everything flammable several miles out in every direction. Curtains, paper, wooden fences, people's clothing, and dry leaves will explode into flame, and combined with exploding gas lines and chemical storage tanks, as well as pilot lights on stoves, furnaces, and water heaters acting like torches to set fire to everything not already burning. Collapsed buildings will become giant ovens as people everywhere burn alive. The nuclear fireballs will rise up, forming iconic mushroom cloud shapes, composed of incinerated people and civilization's debris, turning red, brown, and then orange. Cars and people will be sucked into the center of the burning infernos. The mushroom caps will stretch 20 miles across and then spew radioactive fallout back down onto the earth and its people. Hurricane-force winds will then turn the hundreds of fires into thousands of fires into millions of fires until much of Hampton Roads in about 8 or 9 minutes becomes a mesocyclone of fire. Hundreds of thousands of people will die, with hundreds of thousands of more horribly burned and irradiated to die within a week or a month. There'll be no electricity, no phone service, no 911. Asphalt streets will turn to liquid, water stations won't pump, and medical help will be almost non-existent. In her 2017 Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, ICANN's executive director Beatrice Finn said, "The story of nuclear weapons will have an ending, and it is up to us what that ending will be. Will it be the end of nuclear weapons, or will it be the end of us? One of these things will happen. If we'd rather see the end of nuclear weapons, passing the ICANN Cities Appeal would add Norfolk's voice to hundreds of millions around the world who would rather live in a nuclear weapons-free world. Mr. Mayor, we urge you to put the city's appeal on the council agenda and bring it to a vote. We are happy to help in any way." And as we approach Christmas, we remember Jesus, who came unarmed amid the arsenals of empire, bearing only God's relentless love for humankind. And he invites us to do likewise. Thank you.
Sig Harris, followed by Lamont Waltz.
Peace and blessings with you, council, and good evening. I'm here tonight because our community is hurting. The vandalism of Masjid al-Shura on Kali was not just property damage. It was a hateful, bigoted act meant to intimidate an entire faith community. And so far, we've not heard a clear public condemnation from this council. Silence in moments like this is not neutrality. It sends a message, one that we, the Muslim neighbors, hear loud and clear. For years, many in our city's Muslim and faith-based communities have watched Islamophobia rise, while our elected officials have remained largely silent. When hate is not confronted, it grows. When discriminatory rhetoric goes unchallenged, especially when it comes from people in positions of power, it gives permission. It creates a climate where some believe they can target Muslims without any consequences. And here we are. This vandalism is not an isolated incident. It is the predictable result of a climate we have failed to address as a community. Too often, it seems acceptable to speak to and about Muslims in ways that would never be tolerated towards any other group. That double standard is dangerous. It sends the message that our safety, our dignity, and our belonging are negotiable. I'm here to tell you that they are not. This city has a responsibility, not just legally, but morally, to ensure that every resident, every congregation, every community feels protected. Tonight, we are asking the council for two clear commitments. Firstly, that this council issue a public written condemnation of the hateful vandalism on Masjid al-Shura on Kali. Not a vague statement, not a quiet acknowledgement, a clear, unequivocal condemnation of the Islamophobia and bigotry of the attack. Secondly, we ask that the council provide an explicit assurance to all faith-based communities that acts like this will be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No hesitations, no exceptions. Your words matter, council members. Your leadership matters. And right now, our city needs you to lead, to show that hate has no home here, not in words, not in actions, and not in silence. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Norfolk Police Department for all they've done since the vandalism occurred. Thank you.
Good evening, members of council. Dr. Alexander, Lamont Woltz, 2901 Lafayette Boulevard. First, I'd like to thank Sister Sahar Mercer for those wonderful words you just spoke. So, Sister Sahar just spoke about the vandalism that happened at Masjid al-Shura on Sunday evening at about 9:30. Somebody painted graffiti crosses all around the building, which is going to cost that community a couple $1,000s to repair the damage. Now, I can speak about Islamophobia like Sahar Mercer just did, but I'm not going to speak about Islamophobia. I'm going to speak about the desecration of a house of worship. It doesn't matter whether it was a Muslim mosque or a Jewish synagogue or a Catholic church or a Baptist church. It was a house of worship, a place where people go to feel safe, to commune with their leader in God and their faith. When something like this happens, it makes people scared to go to these places, to commune with their gods. So we're asking that the city make a statement condemning what happened at Masjid al-Shura. We're asking that the city stand with the faith communities, and condemn this. An act like this, these are the lowest, vilest, bigoted, hateful people that would do something like this to a house of worship. I can't express the feelings that I have for this. I would like council to do something about this, to come up with a way. I'm not a smart person, so I don't know. This is why I elected you, to figure these things out. But I think that council needs to find a way to make these faith communities feel safe, when we go to these places. I would like to thank Councilman Page, and like to thank Councilwoman Doyle for getting back to me when I reached out to you, and I thank you for your concerns. Thank you, and I ask that you stand with us. I ask that everybody stand, who believes in what I'm saying. I ask that city council stand with us, if you will. Thank you, Councilman Page. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lamont. Sally Gudis. Sally Gudis is followed by Fred Petit. We follow Sally.
Good evening, Mayor Alexander and Council. I'm Sally Gudis. I live at 9419 Selby Place. I'm here tonight to speak about two topics of concern. The first related to the fear in the immigrant community and a request that the Norfolk Police and Sheriff not enter into cooperative agreements with ICE or the CBP. The second, CPB. The second is to voice my concern for the safety of our Muslim brothers and sisters who are part of the community of the Masjid al-Shura following the vandalizing and desecration there this past Sunday. Last week, I emailed Police Chief Talbot and requested an investigation about the TikTok video account of an alleged cooperation between Norfolk PD and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I appreciate hearing tonight from Chief Talbot and about the investigation. I also appreciate hearing back from Councilman Smigiel and also from Delegate Glass. While it has been reported that the investigation revealed the story was fabricated and did not occur, what is troubling is that the account in the video was so very believable, given what has already happened in the larger Hampton Roads community and our country. Again, not speaking specifically about this incident, but we recently saw ICE target and chase a brown young man on our highway so aggressively that the young man jumped from the car in fear and was struck and killed by a motorist. The immigrant community is living in great fear. They're staying home and keeping children home from school, and they do not know whether or not to trust the police. I ask that the city ensure our community that the police will not use our city resources to help ICE or the Customs Border Protection and to not help them enforce federal immigration law. Since April 2025, the Customs and Border Protection folks had deported 50 migrant cruise workers from the Philippines from the Carnival Cruise Line that was docked right here in Norfolk, and according to my sources, has often not afforded them due process. The city benefits from this cruise line and bears some responsibility to look into this. I request today that the City of Norfolk commit to not cooperate with ICE or CBP beyond what is specifically required by federal law, and that the city police and other entities not enter into 287G agreements, detainers, or other contractual arrangements. Please also do not permit Norfolk police officers to be part of joint task forces that cooperate with ICE. In 2019, we advocated strongly for Sheriff Barron to end his agreement to house ICE detainees, and we were relieved when he did not renew that agreement. The narrative hate and demonizing of other immigrants is harming all of us. It is this vitriol and hate speech that led to the acts of vandalism, such as we saw Sunday night at Masjid al-Shura. As a Quaker, I hold the members of Masjid al-Shura community in the light. I stand in support of the Muslim community and ask that we do all we can to protect their civil and human rights. There is a direct connection between the dehumanization of Muslims and the hate shown here on Sunday. I appreciate that investigation is taking place and ask that the police investigate this hate crime. Thank you.
Fred is followed by Mohammed Rahawi.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I think I speak more to these folks than I do to you. The Episcopal Diocese of Southern Virginia joins you in solidarity in asking for relief in this vandalism against your mosque. I speak on behalf of Bishop Haynes and in respectful proxy for old Joe Breen, esteemed alumni of this community that would stand with you as well if his soul was walking with us. We express our solidarity with your mosque. We condemn the acts of psychological violence against your people, hate and intimidation perpetrated against our brothers and sisters at Masjid al-Sharif. Acts of exclusion and denial of America's religious pluralism are acts that deny the very truth of our national identity and degrade the quality of our community life. We entreat the council and all city agencies to repudiate this regressive religious discrimination, and we stand alongside our Muslim friends in striving for justice and peace among all people and respecting the dignity of every human being. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members and neighbors, I apologize for giving you my back. I can't put a motion on the table. Maybe I can make a suggestion to change the podium so that way we face both entities. So, my name is Mohammed Rahwi. I reside in 201 Talbot Hall Road, Norfolk, and I, like everybody else, my heart sank when I heard that the Masjid al-Shura was vandalized. And by the way, the Masjid al-Shura literally means that the masjid where decision or the mosque where decision are taken like this through consultations. That's what the name means. So it's not just because it is a place of worship, but also because it represents who we are as citizens of Norfolk. I know families who I care about them, who attend that mosque. I know a community who they deeply give more than they take. Okay? So when an act like this happens, we have to come together and we have to condemn it. And the statement by the city council will be the appropriate thing to do. One of the things I have always loved about this city, and I've been here for 25 years, it's diversity. Its diversity is the vaccine, is the immunization that we take against bigotry and against hatred and against racism. So as Muslims, our doors and our hearts are always open. Anybody have a question? And I know some of you, they visited the Islamic Center. Before have any question, please, you have any concern, come to see us anytime. Okay? Our faith teaches us compassion, mercy, but it teaches us justice. So the police chief is here. We rely on his investigation. We have full faith in his team that, and it could be a kid. Who knows who is the perpetrator? But the point is that every process has a beginning and has an end, except bigotry, hatred, and racism. They all must end where they start, right there. We should not give them a chance to flourish. So I urge you to all issue a statement condemning what happened. Thank you for allowing us to speak, and thank you for standing with the Muslim community. Thank you, Mr.
Arif Rashid. Is Arif Rashid?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Alexander and members of Norfolk City Council. I wish to mention, in addition to what has been said about Masjid al-Shura, and as you know, Islamophobia is on the rise, and for the last, my address, I forgot, sorry. I live at 912 Tifton Street, Norfolk, Virginia, 23513. As you know, Islamophobia has been on the rise for some time, and this administration has made things much worse than they were before. A few years ago, right here in the city of Norfolk, a friend of mine and I, it was time for our evening prayer, and we were attending a college graduation, and we found a quiet place to perform our prayers. And while we were praying, we had nothing with us except the program. An officer stood behind us and watched us while we were praying. And while we were down upon our face, just as Jesus Christ did in Matthew 26:39, he unbuckled his, you could hear him loosening the strap on his weapon. And my friend became very fearful, and I kind of glanced at him, and we continued our prayer. When we finished, he asked, are we finished? And I said, yes, sir, we are. So he said, okay, get back to the program. So that was just a thing that happened here. A number of kids, young girls, while riding school buses, they wear scarves. And sometimes the kids pull their scarves. And across the country, a number of Muslim kids have been attacked. One Afghani girl was even stabbed with a pencil by another 12-year-old. And she remained in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. In Houston, Texas, a girl was violently attacked in a middle school just for wearing a hijab. San Francisco, also a kid, a 12-year-old in Connecticut was charged with a hate crime for beating up 2 twin girls. Also, just last week, a Somali couple went into a store, and they were called all kinds of names because they were wearing their Muslim attire, and they called them the N-word. And the person that was filming it decided to show it on Facebook, on social media, and the young lady that called these names they have raised more than 2 years of salary for her for doing these kinds of hate crimes. And as you as you know, well, that's the end of my I wish to end here. Thank you.
Tiffany Robinson.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Tiffany Robinson, 1519 Vine Street, Norfolk, Virginia. I'm happy that the police chief is here. My name is Tiffany Robinson, and what happened to me in Norfolk is not a misunderstanding or a single error. It is a political failure, a symptomatic failure, and a public safety crisis that exposes deep structured problems across Norfolk Police, APS, Centera, and Norfolk court system. On October 2022, I was given a simple summons. I was never arrested. I signed the summons and I went home. but Norfolk police falsely coded the encounter as an arrest. Their own FOIA response states, which I have here, the false entry becomes the arrest action that is noted as a criminal summons with a deposition of cleared by arrest. That false entry became a government-created lie. One I never had a chance to see, challenge, or correct. And that lie spread it silently through APS, through hospitals, through courts, and through every system connected to my livelihood and my license as a caregiver. Months later, when I appeared in court as the summons required, I was ambushed. I was taken into custody right there in the courtroom. No trial date, no due process, no opportunity to defend myself. The judge used my appearance as a trial, relied entirely on the false arrest label in the Norfolk system. I was prosecuted based on a digital fiction. But it didn't stop there. APS used the same false information to justify ambushing me again, this time by filing for guardianship over a vulnerable adult who was already under my legal care. I was the durable powerful attorney, legally appointed, legally documented, and actively caring for him. Yet, APS bypassed me completely and filed a guardianship petition using the same false police data, violating my legal authority and undermining the rights of the very person I was entrusted to protect. That guardianship action set off a chain of events that contribute to his suffering and death. And nobody in the city stopped it, even when they knew I held POA and had standing. This false arrest entry was not an internal mistake. It became a weapon. Norfolk Police wrote it in the FOIA. Adult Protective Services was notified by the case by patrol officer, not because of evidence, not because of abuse, and because of the false computer code. The false code damaged my reputation, destroyed my business opportunity, and allowed APS, Centera, and court actors to treat me as a criminal when there is no arrest and no conviction. This is a government defamation under the Virginia law. It is defamation per se because it directly harmed my occupational and my professional standing. And when I tried to obtain the records that exposed how this happened, the city withheld almost everything. I will be releasing recordings of the APS director admitting she is the policy maker here in the city of Norfolk. I will be releasing these recordings tonight.
Elizabeth Claudio? Elizabeth? Yes. Elizabeth will be followed by Annie Overton.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Elizabeth, and I am an American citizen of Puerto Rican descent. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and I moved here to Virginia 9 years ago. I am married to Sergeant First Class Army veteran who served this nation for 22 years and is now retired. As a brown woman in today's climate, I wake up each day unsure of how people who look like me, will be judged before we even speak. Some days it just feels like we're living in a real-life version of Hunger Games. No American should have to live with that kind of fear. I am the oldest of 4. My sisters and brothers, we are of every shade. I have a sister, dark chocolate. My brother is blonde, blue eyes, and me and the smallest, we are brown. We share the same mom and same dad. Puerto Rican families look like the whole world, and we don't see color as a divider. My cousin can look like you. My mom can look like you. My tío can look like you. But outside, people often judge us before they even know us. Recently, this fear has grown because of what we're witnessing from ICE in our community. I have seen people who are not resisting are thrown through the ground and treated as they are violent criminals. We were told ICE was only targeting those people with serious crimes, but this is not what we are seeing. Many families have reported that people are being stopped simply because of how they look, how they speak, or where they live, many being U.S. citizens. This is profiling, discrimination, and is tearing families apart. We all want safety, but there is a difference between enforcing the law and overstepping it. When people are taken without proper investigation or due process, whole neighborhoods become afraid to go to work, go to school, go to the store, even go to the doctor. Communities are feeling hunted instead of being protected. Let me be clear. Immigrants, documented or undocumented, are some of the hardest working people in this country. They take care of their families here and back home. They work long hours, pay taxes, contribute to our culture, and keep our economy moving. Puerto Ricans have served this country with pride for generations. My family has a long history of military services. We are teachers, business owners, nurses, doctors, public servants, and even volunteers whenever we are needed. We show up for this country every single day. So when Americans and citizens like me feel unsafe because of our skin colors, it is a sign that something is deeply wrong. The land of the free, we say. Let Americans stand for unity, not division. Let America stand for hope and not negativity. Let Americans stand for fairness and not injustice. Let Americans stand for freedom and not fear. When we started this meeting today, we started with the Pledge of Allegiance. And the last sentence says, with liberty and justice for all. It says for all, means everyone. We're all human.
Annie Overton.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Annie Overton. I actually live in Suffolk. I do business here in Norfolk. I didn't prepare anything formal because I think it's important that you feel what's on my heart. And I have a 2-year-old son. Raising him in the world that we're in right now is breaking my heart. Whether that video that happened, allegedly, not, who knows, in Norfolk is true or not, the fact that that exists, the ability to create something like that exists, is terrifying. And I'm a white woman, okay? I have privilege that other people do not have. And it is absolutely terrifying to me that we have gone through 2020 and we're now in 2025 and dealing with this same kind of issue. Nobody deserves the hate that is completely engulfing our cities across the country right now. I can feel pretty confident in saying that a majority of the folks that are behind me right now would stand if I asked them if they were for due process. Would you guys stand if you're in favor of due process? Okay, great. Thank you. I would imagine a majority of you are too. Due process is a foundation of our country, and we need to do better. We need for y'all to deny working with ICE. We need to protect our immigrant families. We need to protect people who are different, that look different than us, and who work harder than any of us do. We can't even imagine. We cannot even imagine. Y'all sitting up here, a majority of the people behind me, we cannot imagine the hardships that come from leaving your home country, going somewhere where you don't speak the language, and then not even being able to leave to go to the grocery store. I have nothing further, but do better.
Rob Brocknell. Lisa Billow. Yes, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Billow. I live at 1720 Blair Avenue in Norfolk. And I wanted to share a specific case that I'm familiar with personally of how ICE has affected Hispanic families, children specifically, and it involves CHKD. So I became acquainted with a teenager and her father who was brought from Belize to get treatment at CHKD, which has a relationship with Belize. The nephrology department has a relationship with Belize and offers consulting. So they were at the Ronald McDonald House. The teenager has end-stage kidney disease. The father is approved as a donor. So they came here for dialysis treatment and to plan for the transplant surgery at VCU. So, you know, when you do that, you get a medical visa. Department of Homeland Security provides a visa with CHKD, and they're for 6 months. You can only be under treatment, and a caregiver, you can't work with a medical visa. That's all you can do. But these processes can take a long time. When your visa is up, you apply for a renewal. Well, once Trump came in, they don't have personnel, they're not renewing them. So that means they're continued to stay here to get their dialysis and still waiting for a date. These bureaucracies at hospitals can take a long time. They've been here a year and a half, and it has worked out. They have gotten their transplant. However, in the meantime, they and other people at Ronald McDonald House getting treatment at CHKD live in fear because they're Hispanic. And they're walking around with expired visa, an expired visa. I have also heard stories of children being taken out of CHE. I don't know the specifics of it. They may have been local children here being treated that are undocumented, but the community doesn't know what happened to them. So what I'm here for, is there something that the city can do that can keep them out of our hospitals, our urgent care? I mean, parents are afraid to let their children go to school. They're afraid to get medical care. They're afraid to be out on the street someplace where they could be picked up. So hospitals, Ronald McDonald House, CHKD, urgent care, is there a way for you to protect them or prevent that kind of, harassment? That's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Alora Rose.
Hello, my name is Alora. I live at 381 Cherry Street here in Norfolk. A recent social media post that you guys are all now aware of levied the accusation that our local police department was conducting ride-alongs with ICE agents in Norfolk. Recent immigration cases have created an atmosphere of fear within our community, leading to an immediate terrified response from community members after it was alleged that MPD was cooperating with ICE without a public disclosure of a 287G agreement. While the validity of that report has been called into question, it has raised several valid fears and concerns among members of our community. First, as a team member for Southampton Roads Indivisible, seeking clarity on the situation for our member newsletter after it happened so that we were able to update people in our community about whether or not the accusation was true, we were unable to contact a member of the MPD Public Affairs Office to get clarity or any comments on the situation. What is the process for members of our community to contact MPD about these concerns so that we are able to share them with our community members that participate in these groups? Because after a full day of more than 10 members of our Norfolk Steering Committee, I still haven't gotten a response, both showing up in person, online, and making calls over the phone. I believe, Mr. Roberts, you were who I spoke to over the phone.
You didn't speak with me.
Oh, was it?
You've not spoken with me, thank you.
It was someone from the city manager's office that I spoke with over the phone that said that we would get a follow-up call for our community newsletter, and we heard from no one, still to this point, which is why we continued to come here tonight. Second is the very real fears of public safety and humane treatment of Norfolk residents. In October of 2025, Jose Castro Rivera, a 24-year-old Honduran man, was fatally struck by a vehicle on Interstate 264 in Norfolk, Virginia, while attempting to flee from U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. In January of 2025, a man posing as an ICE agent just hours away from here in North Carolina brutally kidnapped and raped a young woman in North Carolina. Speaking to the police and reporters after the incident, the woman stated that she was fearful to call the police because she was not sure if anyone would help her. She believed at the time of her assault that she was being assaulted by a federal agent. My questions for Norfolk City Council and for the Norfolk Police and Sheriff's Department is, will NPD defend citizens of Norfolk from assault and use of excessive force by federal agents? And will NPD publicly commit to not cooperate with ICE operations in our community without a warrant or a subpoena?
Gabe Harold. Gabe Harrell, followed by Ari Julian.
Hello, Councilman. I know you might have missed me. I was up in New York making a movie. So, ironically, that is where, before I do that, I should say my address. Right now, my address is 521 Boissevain Avenue, apartment 28B in Norfolk, Virginia. That's going to be my address for just a couple more weeks until I'm rent-evicted from my house. So, I was up in New York, where Lightwell Development is based, by the way. That's the company who bought Pelham Place. Rent is pretty high up there. It's about $60,000 a month in the off-season, to the point that I thought I had Zillow on buy, not rent. $60,000 a month. And we have people from up there coming down here and buying our property, and buying so many properties that they can then look to other property and say, well, at least it's not that high. Well, the one that they're saying is at least it's not that high is, surprise, also owned by them. Artificial inflation. And I'm talking about a few things tonight, and it all kind of goes together. I'm seeing as I'm listening to everybody talk, and I know we're all tired, and I know that we're all worn out, but it's really important that this gets said. It ties into the ICE situation that happened recently. I don't know if you all are familiar with how good AI has gotten. Artificial intelligence has gotten really, really, really good. There was a time where people said you can tell by looking at the hands and blah, blah, blah. Well, we're well past that. And my question is, why is it less believable that that video that was posted on TikTok was created by AI than that it actually did happen here? Why is that less believable that a computer model made that up? It's more believable that it did happen here because it's happening everywhere. And we know that ICE says, yeah, well, they'll accept military ID. Well, ICE says a lot of things. ICE doesn't tell the truth. So, as a citizen of Norfolk who was born in DePaul Hospital, which is now demolished and owned by the people who own the Barry Robinson Center, who have children run out in the street, I ask, where is Rent Ready? I've emailed them. I haven't gotten a response. And what's the deal with the non-renewals with tenants, residents of Norfolk, and non-renewals for people on visa programs, people who are seeking medical care? And in the words of the Lorax by Dr. Seuss, they say, unless you care a whole awful lot, nothing will change. It's just not. Well, caring, a lot of people here care. We see that. We've spent the last 2.5, 3 hours, James Cameron length time, seeing the people who care. We need something done, and we need it done now, and that's non-negotiable.
Good evening. I'm Ari Julian. My pronouns are Z, Zem, Zir, and I live at 400 Burley Avenue, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia. I've only been a citizen of Norfolk for 3 months now. I've done a lot of research trying to learn about the city of Norfolk. There is a couple of things that concern me. One of the concerns is public safety. There was 414 calls from 2020 to 2024 about police complaints. And with that being said, I've listened to the stories tonight. I'm a volunteer. I volunteer at least 3 to 5 days a week, and I'm feeding people. I know housing is just as important. I'm not deflecting that, but you can't live without food, and that's where I chose to volunteer my time. And kids are being left at school because their parents are being picked up for non-criminal offenses. People are afraid to come to our food pantry for food that's free. Free. Because they're scared to be seen out in public. It's a real thing. I don't know anything about about what the police was here speaking about earlier. I don't know anything about the high-speed chase. I do not use social media. What I can say is I am on the buses in the city of Norfolk. I am at your food pantries. I am sitting up at night crying, wondering if this child is going to have parents to come home to. Like, it's real. And I can't do anything. Y'all can do something. I'm one person. And sitting at home crying as a white woman that you guys see, I'm not a white woman, but I know that's what the people see of me. It just hurts. I want to see more. I want to see more for Ariana Mitchell. I want to see more for George Floyd. I want to see more for Breonna Taylor. I want to see more for my Puerto Rican family. My daughter is Puerto Rican. I have another daughter. She's 13. She came to me and asked me if she held her eyes open more like this, does she look more white passing? She's Filipino, and she's scared. She's an American citizen. And I don't have the answers. So I'm asking y'all to have the answers. I'm asking y'all to fix this. I hope y'all have a great night.